This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History. I am your host, Steve White, ready to take you around the sports history timeline once again. It is December 26th, and on this day, we had yet another miracle in Miami. The birth of a ritual in Green Bay, and a secret back office meeting that sent the Bambino to Gotham. All that plus a non-sports fun fact at the end about setting aside animosity just for a little bit to unite for a common cause. I'll kick off today's episode right after this.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink. Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points. No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there. But Coach, we have another half to play. I don't care. I can't stand to be around you. A few minutes later. All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that? Yes, Coach. Great. sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. sterlingsoap.com. All right, let's get started with what happened on this day back in 2020 when the Dolphins pulled off the 2.0 version of the Miami Miracle. This was the 9-5 Dolphins in Vegas taking on a 7-7 Raiders team. Both teams still harbored hopes for making the playoffs at this point in the season. This game was a bit ho-hum, though, until the last 4 minutes. Tied at 16 in an empty stadium due to COVID, but if there had been a crowd, they would have gotten out of their seats for this play, for sure.
Derek Carr in that bad groin, a lofted up for Aguilar, makes the adjustment, and the move! The veteran Aguilar, weaving his way, he will go! Touchdown Raiders!
The Raiders missed the PAT, though, and that would come back to haunt them like day-old gas station sushi. Derek Carr was having a decent day, though, especially after that TD strike to Aguilar. He completed 21 passes for 336 yards. On the other side of the field, Dolphins starting QB Tua Tagovailoa was struggling, completing just 17 passes for just 94 yards. So Tua got yanked, and Coach Brian Flores turned to Ryan Fitzpatrick for a little Fitzmagic to try to salvage a win.
41, it's Gaskin. Shedding a tackler, Myles Gaskin to the outside, hits the sideline, and there he goes! Myles Gaskin, a foot race, a touchdown! Catch and run, 59 yards, and the game is tied!
The Dolphins made their PAT, and they led by 1. The Raiders struck quickly, taking advantage of a pass interference call in the red zone, and then put it in time waster mode, taking the clock from 2 minutes 20 seconds down to 19 seconds left in the game. But instead of punching it in, they kicked the field goal for a 25-23 lead. After the kickoff, the Dolphins got the ball at their own 25, and Fitzpatrick pulled a rabbit out of a hat.
See if Fitzpatrick can pull a trick out. He got hit as he lofted it up. Blown coverage! Matt Collins is inbounds at the 41. It's a 34-yard gain, and there's a flag down, likely for a face mask. Unreal, though. I mean, not just completing the pass, but doing so while getting his face mask pulled, ripped to the ground, still able to heave it up for Hollins.
So it doesn't translate very well to audio, but Fitzpatrick nearly had his head ripped off. Well before he released it, his head was going all exorcist mode. He's staring up at the roof of Allegiant Stadium when he released the ball downfield. Chiefs QB and legendary no-look passer Patrick Mahomes called it the greatest no-look pass in NFL history. The penalty tacked on an additional 15 yards and moved the ball down to the Raiders' 26, and with 6 seconds left, Jason Sanders nailed the 43-yard kick to beat the Raiders 26-25 to complete yet another unlikely win for Fitzpatrick. For the self-titled Amish rifle, The win marked Fitzpatrick's 13th fourth-quarter comeback win in his career and the 18th and final game-winning drive. How about another game in which the Raiders played the foil? On this day in 1993, an impromptu celebration after a touchdown turned into the standard, and now it's simply ritual. This was a Week 17 game between an 8-6 Green Bay Packers team and the 9-5 LA Raiders, and as it tends to be in Green Bay in late December, it was cold. It was the third coldest game played at Lambeau at that point, and the chill was certainly a hindrance for the Raiders. Their offense sputtered all day. Of course, that may have been due to an aggressive Packers defense led by the Minister of Defense himself, Reggie White. The Packers sacked the Raider QB combo of Jeff Hostetler and Vince Evans 8 times on the day, and it was the defense that came up with the signature play of the day that brings us to what we're talking about. The Packers were up 14-0 in the fourth quarter. Raiders had the ball, and like a lot of rituals, it started simply.
So it'll be Vince Evans the rest of the way, and Evans gets the pass off, but hit at the 37 was Randy Jordan, and LeRoy Butler picks up the loose ball. There's been no indication of a touchdown.
So, to fill in a gap or two, LeRoy Butler made the hit on Jordan to jar the ball loose. Reggie White caught it. Before he was tackled, he lateraled to Butler, who sprinted to the end zone. As he crossed the end line, he pointed to folks in the first row of the end zone seats, and then Butler leaped into their awaiting arms and into Packers history with the first ever Lambeau Leap touchdown celebration. The Packers went on to win the game 28-0. On this day in 1977, it was the original Mud Bowl. Now, there have been a host of well-known bad weather games played in the NFL, and this game was reminiscent of the 1948 championship game between Philadelphia and Los Angeles that we've talked about before. Well, in this epic battle in 77, it was man versus nature. The Minnesota Vikings were on the West Coast for a meeting with the LA Rams in the playoffs, and a rematch of the previous year's NFC title game, which the Vikings had won. The Rams had struggled in the playoffs against the Vikings in the recent past when playing outdoors in frigid Minnesota weather. So Los Angeles was happy to be getting the Vikings at home in the warmth and the sunshine of California for this one. Except it was anything but sunny and warm. Instead, Southern California was hit by a torrential rainstorm, and it changed the dynamics in this game for sure, with water puddling at midfield prior to kickoff. Vin Scully called the action for CBS that day, and he alluded to the rough field conditions prior to kickoff.
And Fred Cox, the first thing, he will have to negotiate the swamp for at least 5 yards before kicking the ball, and that will be no easy task.
So these two teams had met in the regular season back in October, with the Rams winning that one 35-3 on a Monday night. In addition, Vikings quarterback Fran Tarkenton had been injured in that previous matchup, and he was still out for this one. So it was backup quarterback Bob Lee, also known as the General Lee, who was called on to lead Minnesota on this day. Head coach Bud Grant wanted to air it out in the early part of the game before the monsoon turned the field into a total quagmire.
Bob Lee, looking to release, goes down the left side, and it's complete to Ahmad Rashad for the first down to the 41-yard line. Rashad, who led the NFC with 51 passes this year, goes up in the air to make the...
Lee only threw 10 passes that day, completing half of them. In fact, all 5 of his completions came on that first possession. The Vikes' opening drive culminated in a 6-yard Chuck Foreman TD run and a 7-0 lead for Minnesota. At that point, the field really started to deteriorate. Players were slipping and sliding when trying to make cuts or when the quarterbacks were trying to set up in the pocket to throw, so it turned into a ball control, run first, run second, run it again kind of a game. By the fourth quarter, the players were covered by so much mud, the only way to tell the two teams apart was by the helmets. The Vikings scored their second touchdown of the game in the fourth when Sammy Johnson went over from the 1 to give Minnesota the 14-0 lead. On the ensuing kickoff, whether it was a squib kick, like play-by-play man Vin Scully called it, or an intentional onside kick, or whether Vikings kicker Fred Cox simply slipped when he planted his left foot and it turned into an inadvertent onside kick that paid off for the Vikes, that's still up for debate. But the ball pinged off a Ram and the Vikings recovered it in the midfield mud pit. It was one of 3 turnovers LA had on the day. No points came out of that turnover though, but it did run some precious time off the clock. The Rams finally got on the scoreboard with just under a minute to play in the game after Pat Hayden hit Harold Jackson for a short TD pass. The Rams pulled off a successful and intentional onside kick after that, and they had a chance to tie the ball game in the final seconds, but Hayden's heave was intercepted at the goal line, and the Vikings were off to the NFC Championship game again. How about a strange occurrence that happened on this day in 2001 in an NBA game? This was the Los Angeles Lakers playing in Oakland against the Golden State Warriors. With 4 minutes 57 seconds left in the game, Devin George was called for a non-shooting foul that he was pretty sure he did not commit. It was his 6th personal, so he was done for the night. But on his way to the bench, he kicked the scorer's table, which earned him a technical and an ejection and an express one-way ticket to the locker room. Things got chaotic after that. The officials never allowed the substitution for George to come into the game, giving the ball to the Warriors to inbound with only 4 Lakers on the court. Golden State knocked down a 3, and that lit Phil Jackson's fuse. He got popped with a tee and then a second, which would have sent him to the showers for the rest of the game. But in a weird reversal, the officials took the made 3 off the board, rescinded the technicals on Jackson, gave the ball back to the Warriors, and then things got a little weirder.
I've never seen it. Well, the officials obviously inbounded the ball and let play resume without giving them a chance to get the players on the floor. I've never seen it happen.
And now an offensive foul on Fortson. This is awful. A made 3 taken off the board. A technical on the coach also rescinded. And now an offensive foul on Danny Fortson. That is amazing.
Despite all the chaos, the Warriors hung on to win 101-90. On this day in 1919, officials with the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees met in secret and hammered out a deal for Babe Ruth. The Red Sox agreed to sell the rights to Ruth to the Yankees for $125,000. This all came about because Ruth wanted more money from the Red Sox. He'd signed a 3-year, $30,000 deal with the Sox prior to the 1919 season and then gone on to lead the league with 29 home runs and 113 RBI. After the season, Ruth demanded a deal worth $20,000 a year, but the Red Sox were not budging, and the Babe was willing to sit it out, saying, "I will not play with the Red Sox unless I get $20,000 this year." You may think that sounds like a pipe dream, but it is the truth. I feel like I made a bad move last year when I signed a 3-year contract to play for $30,000. The Boston club realized much of my value, and I think that I am entitled to twice as much as my contract calls for. Boston's Harry Frazee disagreed with Ruth, and he said the deal with the Yankees was just too good to pass up. And after a 6th-place finish in 1919, he figured the money could be spent to replace Ruth and get back to winning championships. The Sox had won 5 of the first 15 World Championships at this point, 3 of those with Ruth, and this was supposed to start another run. Instead, it turned into an 86-year World Series championship drought for the Red Sox and an incredible championship run for the Yankees. While the deal was agreed upon on this day, it was not announced until January 5th of 1920. Ruth got his $20,000 a year contract with the Yankees. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. During World War I in the winter of 1917, German and Russian troops paused their trench warfare against each other to actually team up to fight a common enemy: Russian wolves. These large wolves hunted in packs and had been displaced by all the fighting that was going on in their natural habitat. The winter had also been especially brutal, causing starvation in the wolf population. So they had gotten a bit more aggressive in their hunting to survive and were attacking wounded soldiers and were carrying off corpses. So the Germans and the Russians called a temporary truce, and they fought back against the wolves, killing hundreds of them before they felt safe enough to end their truce and get back to trying to kill each other. That's it for today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.